guys, today we're going to Timmy's, and if you don't know what Timmy's is, just kidding. Timmy's is Tim Hortons. Yes, I'm Canadian, so I'm gonna go to Tim Hortons to read. It's right here, hold on. I'm going to go to Tim Hortons to read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I'm so excited to read this book because not only it's been a while since I've been in the Harry Potter world, but also the weather. Like, it's perfect fall weather, and I've been wanting to watch the movies for a long time now, but with 2 kids, reactions, work, everything, it hasn't been possible yet. So I'm glad to at least be reading the book, and some people even say that it's better than the movies, so I'm really excited to do this. So you're gonna be joining me. We're gonna be at Tim Hortons. We're gonna have a nice ice cap, and we're gonna dive into this. It's gonna be fun, so let's go.
Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out.
Just reading the first chapter reminds me how much I hate Dudley and Vernon and Petunia. They are horrible. It just boils my blood. I hate them all over again.
It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets die in your heart so slow.
So I know I watched the movie, and I know that this happened in the movie where everyone, or I guess Harry, thinks that everyone forgot his birthday. It just makes me tear up. I'm reading it again, and it just gives me all the feels all over again. Just so sad. I know it's not true. They didn't forget his birthday, but just seeing how he thinks they forgot makes me so sad. Dickory Pockery, Hocus Pocus, Swiggly Wiggly. That's what Harris is saying to Dudley to scare him.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Chris, and I literally just finished work. There's freezing rain outside. I'm not sure if you can hear it in the background. But, you know, my gorgeous wife is at home with our 2 amazing boys. So I just thought, you know, they're safe, they're warm. So I'm just going to take this time to start at least my part of this book review for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Guys, I'm so pumped for this. I really missed this. I'm not sure if you've seen our first book review of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. If you haven't, please check it out. You know, I completely fell in love with the first book. I personally thought that it was better than the first movie because it really made you feel like you weren't visiting Hogwarts and seeing Harry as a student. It kind of felt like you were a student of Hogwarts yourself. I'm not going to rehash all that. If you guys, again, if you want to check it out, it's on our channel. Please do before watching this one too, so you can kind of go along the journey with us. Also, I just wanted to make note of something before we dive into my part of the first 4 chapters of the Chamber of Secrets. So instead of just immediately buying the entire series of Harry Potter books without having read them, my wife and I thought it would be a really good idea to rent them first from the library. You know, just to be safe, because some people probably love the movies and they don't necessarily like the books, and I know it's vice versa. So, you know, just to be on the safe side, we thought, you know, we're going to do this. We're going to rent the books. And the first book we rented, you know, The Philosopher's Stone, we got paperback, and it was great. But for this one, for the Chamber of Secrets, we rented again, obviously, and we didn't get paperback this time. This time we got a book with illustrations. And I just want to say, huge shout out to Jim Kay, who did the illustrations for the Chamber of Secrets. I'm not sure if he's done them for the entire series, but when we first found out about this, my wife and I, we decided to keep the book after, you know, hemming and hawing if we should return the book for a paperback. But, you know, after seeing these pictures, or these drawings, sorry, I just want to show you guys what I'm really talking about. So this is Dudley, and then this is Harry. So I just want to express how great of a job Jim Kay has done with illustrating a type of, I want to say, realistic, a realistic feature to these characters, just because, you know, obviously there's a movie out and you can make the argument, well, Chris, isn't that realistic enough for you? But I just want to kind of explain that, you know, they're Hollywood actors, right? So even if you're trying to make them look ugly, or if you're trying to make them look a little weird, they're still going to look way better than the average person. Like, that's a shot at myself too. I'm not like trying to diss everybody in the world who isn't an actor, but you can obviously tell the difference between your average Joe Blow, like yours truly, and a Hollywood actor, whatever age they are. You can definitely tell, right? The difference. So I think the drawings are just giving kind of a realism approach to these characters, which make it even more relatable to me. You know, one more example I'm going to give is Dobby, who is not, as though we really want him to be real, he's not real. However, how Jim Kay drew Dobby, again, it's more realistic. He has ears that are 4 times his size. He has a long, drooped down nose that kind of is the length and width of a carrot, of a really soggy carrot, and it's just drooping down. And huge, massive, bulging eyes. So I think for the movie version of Dobby, he looked really, my wife has said this, you know, he looks very cuddly. He reminds you kind of like a stuffed bear, almost, like just something you want to cuddle at night. But I think what Jim Kay has done, again, is if you think of a house elf, you're going to imagine something like what Jim Kay drew. Like, it's not going to be something that, oh, I really want to cuddle with you. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out in case further in this book review, you're starting to see us using a different kind of book, and you're like, what are those drawings if you've never seen them before? Yeah, so I mean, after explaining that, let's get on with it. Let's get started. So I found personally that chapters 1 and 2, there wasn't really any difference from the book to the movie, which is not a negative thing at all. I think that's actually a huge props to the director. And I know I've seen interviews of Chris saying that he worked closely with J.K. Rowling for his 2 movies that he directed. So that makes sense, but I found a lot of differences for the first book and the first movie, comparing them. But for these first 2 chapters of the Chamber of Secrets, there really isn't any difference between the book and the movie. Sure, there's like maybe a little things here and there that you could be like that's a little bit different. But for the most part, it's almost like a copy and paste between the book and the movie after. Which, again, hats off to Chris. I think that shows tremendous respect for J.K. Rowling's work. I thought that was great. However, pushing forward, so I'm not going to linger on that too much. So for chapter 3, I finally see what I wanted to see all throughout the Chamber of Secrets movie. And, well, to be honest with you, kind of throughout the entire series of the Harry Potter movies. they finally touched on Percy Weasley. They finally touched on him more and giving more of an explanation as to what the hell is happening with him. I was at a complete loss, because when you first see him, I don't even think you see him in the Philosopher's Stone. Maybe for like a fraction of a second, when they're at the train station and they're going through the portal there. But other than that, you don't really see him at all. So for the Chamber of Secrets, when you first see him in the movies, he just, out of nowhere, has this kind of black sheep vibe and almost like a disdain towards his family. And it's not really touched on at all why this is, how this is, where did that even come from. He's kind of just, like I said, the black sheep of the family. He just doesn't really want to be involved with what they're doing. I don't even really think he likes to be called a Weasley. It's almost, maybe not embarrassment, maybe embarrassment. I don't know. You guys agree or disagree with me, it's fine. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. So the fact that they're finally touching on Percy and how he was hid away basically the entire summer in his room, from hid away from his family, speaks huge volumes to his character and what's to come. Because you're going to really hide away from your entire family. And how even, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but how in chapter 4, Percy sat down with his family for breakfast with the prefect badge pinned to his shirt. And he just says, "Morning all." Like it's a business meeting. Like no emotion, no affection, no anything there. Like, they could have just been strangers he sat down with. That was very eye-opening. And also like a, oh, moment. Like, okay, so this started even before. I think in the movie, you see him sit down with his family, Percy. You see him sit down with the Weasleys. And then you don't see him again until like the 5th movie. And he's with the Ministry. And he's trying to like derail Harry and Ron, which is his family. And you're like, what the hell just happened? What? Like, when did he turn bad? So it's really an eye-opening part of the book. And I think was kind of essential for them to sprinkle a little bit more in the movies. Because you really are blind with his character. Or maybe not even blind's the right word. You're kind of more like just ripped off of what is happening with Percy and why he is the way he is. But, moving on, when Fred and George and Ron rescue Harry from the bars on his windows at the Dursleys, when they get back to the house, the Weasley house, and they enter in and they see Molly, Mrs. Weasley, walk up to them. And when Fred says, when she's coming up, I think is absolutely hilarious. And again, it's just showing the comedic writing of J.K. Rowling, which suits, Fred and George so perfectly. That's such a realistic thing where you see, you're about to get in trouble. Like, damn, I got caught. All right. But to just go, you see her walking up is just hilarious to me. Also, Mundungus Fletcher being brought up in chapter 3 of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. That was also eye-opening, because I don't think he's ever brought up, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I don't think he's ever brought up in the movies until the Deathly Hallows Part 1. I think that's the first time you ever hear of him. So to have these name drops so early, just again adds depth, adds background information on these characters. So I assume when they bring Mundungus Fletcher up in the Deathly Hallows Part 1 book, you can already be like, oh yeah, I've heard that name before. Mundungus, at it again. However, in the movies, you're like, who? What? Mundungus what? Huh? However, the best part of this chapter, hands down, was when Ron brought Harry to his room. And, Ron was watching Harry nervously, as though waiting for his opinion. And Ron saying to Harry, it's a bit small. Then Harry grinning widely and said, "This is the best house I've ever been in." Ron's ears went pink. I related to that a lot. I'm sure with every kid, their room is important, right? It's basically the only thing you have control over as a kid is your homework and your bedroom. So I know that, but when you grow up poor, your room is like your sacred place. It's your safety net, so seeing Ron be so insecure about his room and showing Harry, because it's such a special place to Ron, that touched my heart, because it was the exact same thing with me. My room, I spent all day in there. I never left, because that was my safety zone. That was, yeah. So, anyways, but that part really touched me. And again, it's adding layers to Ron as a character, where in the movies, he's kind of just Harry's sidekick and he's the comedic relief. You know what I mean? And I touched on this a lot already in the Goblet of Fire movie reaction and our first book review of the Philosopher's Stone. So I promise, guys, I'm not going to rattle on about it again. I had such difficulty relating myself to Ron at all with only watching the movies. I really didn't like him that much, because he was such a shallow character. Like, there was no depth to him at all. He was just there to make people laugh, and that was pretty much it, and throwing hissy fits. Like, that was pretty much it. However, we're the second book in, well, even the third chapter of the second book in, and I already like Ron a million times more, and I relate to him so much on so many different things. I just think he was really robbed in the movies. Yeah, I love that part. That was hands down the best part of the first 3 chapters. The main thing I enjoyed about these 4 first chapters was how in the movies, Harry, from my perspective at least, Harry felt more like a guest, like a welcome guest to the Weasleys. However, in the book, it's very clear that Harry is part of the Weasley family. And I absolutely love that. I absolutely love, just for examples, when he came to the Burrow, Molly fussing over his socks and force-feeding him. Arthur always wanting Harry to sit next to him when they're having supper. That's stuff you didn't see in the movies. He sat with the family. When they brought, light to Harry, Arthur was like, "Oh my God, Harry Potter." Like, it was very superficial. However, in the book, they're already treating him like, I was going to say a third son, but I think there's more Weasleys. Like a 12th son. Just part of the family. And I absolutely love that detail in the books that was kind of left out of the movies. It just adds more attachment between Harry and the Weasley family. It doesn't seem so... forced isn't the right word, but so this is how it's supposed to be. It's more organic in the books. And one quote really hit me deep. It's what Harry found most unusual about life at Ron's, however, wasn't the talking mirror or the clanking ghoul. It was the fact that everybody there seemed to like him. That is so deep. It just speaks volumes, the fact that Harry was just so relieved to be in a place where at least one person likes him, let alone the entire family loves him already. I just think that's so deep on so many levels. So as you guys know already, I've explained it pretty much every single movie reaction we did to Harry Potter. I have seen the Harry Potter movies almost on repeat more than a decade straight, right? So I've seen the deleted scene for the Chamber of Secrets because I own all the movies on DVD. So I seen the deleted scene with Malfoy's dad in what is it called again? Sorry, Borgin and Burke's. But with that deleted scene, it had more to do with Lucius being a terrible father and how he is just a bully and how that's rubbing off on Draco, right? And I'm not trying to dismiss that. That is absolutely psychologically deep, and there's so much more to come with that, obviously. But you know, that deleted scene alone, that's kind of why it served its purpose, you know. And I think it was later cut because it just didn't really have a place in the movie. And they were going to explore Draco's life later on anyways, you know, in the Half-Blood Prince and everything. I believe how they introduced Lucius in the book is far better than how they did in the movies, to be honest with you. So I think a great example of this would be, you know, how Lucius was hinting at items needing to be taken from his home, his manor, because of the raids that were happening. You know, especially with Borgin saying, "Good day yourself, Mr. Malfoy, and if the stories are true, you haven't sold me half of what's hidden in your manor." It's just kind of foreshadowing a bit, actually, to his character and his role to do with, you know, Voldemort and just the dark arts. So I thought that was a very important thing to know, so you don't find it so random later on. I find a lot of these things, actually, reading the book so far, that, you know, vital information and vital points of characters that most likely should have been left in, because it just feels so random in the movies. I love the movies a lot, so I'm not trying to say they did a disservice, but they could have done better, in my opinion, in regards to the characters and the depth. And the little changes that I mentioned earlier. You know how Mr. Weasley fixes Harry's glasses when he finally rejoins the group after, you know, saying, what did he say again? Diagon Alley instead of Diagon Alley. So when he rejoins them, Arthur Weasley is the one who fixes Harry's glasses, not Hermione. So, you know, little differences like that, which don't change the story at all. It makes you question why they changed it. I find the contrast in Ron and Harry's friendship is, again, shown so much better in the books than it is in the movies. You know, Ron's desire to be unique and known, you know, even famous, how he wanted to be, you know, the top Quidditch player at Hogwarts, you know, in the first book and first movie too. But he gets treated constantly like an afterthought. You know, the photographer stepping on Ron's foot and telling him to get out of the way when he's trying to get to Lockhart. And then you contrast that to Harry. You know, Harry is very uncomfortable with the fame he has. And, you know, Lockhart immediately seeing Harry, grabbing him, bringing him close to him, and getting a photo, because Lockhart knows, if I have Harry Potter in this, probably going to make the front page, right? So it's just such a contrast. There's such a difference where Harry and Ron are best friends, but they want two completely opposite things. They kind of want what the other one has, in a sense. You know what I mean? Speaking of Lockhart, he is perfectly casted in the movie. You have to give them that. Like, the dude nails it. The talking, his charisma. You know, I didn't get rid of the Banshee by smiling at them. It's just smiling like, bro, you're not that great. So I want to give a huge shout out to that. They casted perfectly, pretty much for every character. I don't think there's been one character where you're like, someone could have done it better. Leo could have killed this. Leonardo DiCaprio could have murdered this man. No, everyone was like perfectly casted. So the last thing I want to bring up is how Arthur Weasley does not mess around. There's no way, man. Throwing himself at Lucius and hitting him on the eye with, what is it, an encyclopedia of toadstools. Yeah, telling him you're a piece of... No, it's kidding. But, in the movie, Arthur kind of just takes it. Arthur just kind of takes it all on the chin. He doesn't do anything. He's showing he's the mature one. He's the adult in the situation. In the book, he's like, nah, to hell with that. We're throwing fists right now, bro. And he just goes right at him. I thought that was hilarious. And again, a little more realistic, because if somebody was insulting me, my family, my kids, I would throw hands. Absolutely. In the moment, it's very unlikely that you would remain calm and you wouldn't do anything, and you would just, bigger man in that situation. That's a little unrealistic there. So guys, that's it for me, at least for the first 4 chapters. I'm so excited to continue reading. Whenever I lock into these Harry Potter books, I'm just transported, to Hogwarts and into the Harry Potter world, and it's very hard to come out of. So I'll see you guys on the next review. All right, time to head home.
There's always time to show off a little bit. I wanted to show you guys the Christmas tree. I mean, if I put it up with 2 kids, it has to stay there for at least 2 months. So I also have to show it. And I got some, I'll show you guys, with the Christmas tree and Christmas music. I know there's toys on the floor. Let's ignore that. But baby sleepy. Yay! All this is with grandma, so we don't have a lot of time. Let's get right into it. Okay guys, I think we're all settled in, but before we get started, I just thought it was so funny. Like, look at this. Look at this. This is Chris's bookmark. A napkin. And not even a good napkin. It's a takeout napkin. But I love the guy, I love the guy. So I guess we'll leave his takeout napkin as a bookmark right there. So I'm gonna get to where I left off, and let's get into this. Let's get started.
It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know.
So I got to the part where Arthur is fighting with Malfoy's dad, Lucius. I hope that's how you say it. But where they're fighting, and that wasn't in the movie, and that I thought that was crazy, because I remember when we first watched the movie that I was like, oh my god, I can't believe he didn't stand up for himself. Like, I would have punched him right there. Like, he's embarrassing in front of his kids, and he did do it. He did do it in the book. So I'm wondering why they changed it in the movie. Maybe they just wanted to make it more kid friendly, or maybe they didn't. I don't know why they did it, but it was interesting that in the movie he seems like he was like scared, and maybe, I don't know, he wouldn't do something like that with his character in the movie. But in the book, you can see that he seems more like how I thought he would be. He seems very interested in muggles. He's very outgoing, but if you cross him, he'll fight with you and he'll show his kids that. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I just got to chapter 5 and I have to like read the first page. I guess not read it all, but this part is so touching. I can't believe that he said this. Okay, I'll read it. The end of the summer holidays came too quickly for Harry's liking. He was looking forward to getting back to Hogwarts, but this month at the Burrow had been the happiest of his life. It was difficult not to feel jealous of Ron when he thought of Dursleys and the sort of welcome he could expect next time he turned up in Privet Drive. Yeah, that's the part. I was gonna keep reading, but it's funny that he felt so sad that the summer was over, because when he was at the Dursleys, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, he wanted the summer to be over so he could be back at Hogwarts. But now that he's with Ron and his family, he doesn't want it to be over, because that's the happiest he's been in his entire life. And he felt jealous of Ron, and Ron has always felt kind of jealous. You can see it in the movies, kind of jealous of Harry. So I thought that's just how life is, you know, like you feel jealous of what other people have, but then you want what they have, even though they might seem like they have everything, you still want what someone else has. And I don't know, that just made my heart break, that he loved that so much and that's all he wanted. He was happy with that, and he could give everything else up. That was so cute. You know, I really like the book because it has like a touch of magic on every page. I like that not every page is the same. Like you can see it has illustrations on one side, and then you flip the page and it has like, where did I see it? It has different colors. And let me go here. I really like that. It makes reading more enjoyable, at least for me. So if it seems kind of awkward holding the book, it's a little awkward, but I'm really enjoying the book. Oh my god, I love Professor McGonagall. I love her because she's strict, but she shows that she cares about her students, and she's, you know, you're still scared of her. You know she's very strict, but you can see in her the way that she talks to you, and the way that she kind of punishes you. She still cares about you, especially giving them the sandwich. That sounds so good. Like just a sandwich with a plate that has limited sandwiches, like that's so good. And it shows that she cares, you know. She could have sent them to bed without eating dinner, and I don't know, I just really like her. Oh my god, I just got to the part where Harry meets Colin for the first time, and I remember actually I don't remember, in the movies he had a role, and I think they said that in the books he has a bigger role. So I made a mental note when I was watching the movies and we knew we were gonna read the books, to remember when was the first time that I heard about Colin in the books. So this is the first time, and it is like the movie where he is taking a picture of Harry and asking him to sign in and all these things. So it isn't the same as in the book, as in the movie. But I think Colin's story is a little underrated, because it seems like he's Gryffindor, and it seems like he's saying it here that he was a pitcher because he survived when you know who tried to kill him, and he wants to show his dad, who's a milkman, a picture of him. So I know I wanted to know, what was his dad doing? A milkman. I feel like Colin's story is underrated because he's comes from the Muggle world, and he's Gryffindor too, and his dad is a milkman. Like, how did he know about Hogwarts? And like, he wants to take a picture of Harry to show it to his dad, but I don't know. I kind of want to know more about him. So hopefully I can see him more in the books, but he isn't like in the movie. He's annoying and wants to wants to take a picture of him. Yeah, I just thought I'd make a note of it. Okay, guys. Yeah, Chris's bookmark. That's it for tonight. Hopefully, no, maybe I shouldn't say that's it for tonight. That's it for right now. Seems like baby woke up, so we have to stop here, but I'm excited to get back into it. So hopefully tonight, if not tomorrow, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Good morning. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. There's a snowstorm outside. The good things that the kids are sleeping, but since the last time you saw me, I read up to chapter 10, and I watched the movie. Because I was starting to the book and the movie started to blend in my brain. You guys saw me the first time I watched a movie was last year around this time, so I was like, I'm not remembering things right, so I just want to watch a movie so I can get all the details straight. And I wrote down as I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is I'm getting some things that are different from the movie and the book. So, but there are little details. Little details like, let me check here. Okay, so one of the details I found is that, or I guess no detail but difference is that, and it kind of bothers me, that Mr. Weasley said in the movie, so what's the deal with rubber ducks? And in the books, he actually asked a really good question. He was like, so how do you use the mail? How do you use the phone? It was like, those were better questions. I don't know why they ripped him off of that. I was like, that's kind of stupid question. Also, Harry in the movies doesn't say dag, he's like Dagonelli. In the movie he says Diagonally. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting change, I guess, to see maybe people actually realize that he messed up. I don't know. I was like, that's interesting. I mean, I like that. I was reading the books and then I was watching the movie and I was like, this is different. Oh, and the part where Hermione fixed his glasses, I was like, I'm a little bit mad at that. Why did she fix his glasses? I thought she wasn't supposed to do magic outside of school. So is that like a rule break, or I don't know. I was like, I thought you weren't supposed to do magic. So I don't like that she fixed his glasses, because in the book it's Mr. Weasley, the one that does. So now I'm starting to see what people are saying about Hermione, and that her role gets changed a lot and she gets way more parts, because then the part where Ron says you shouldn't be listening to voices in your head, even in the wizarding world, that's not good. That's what Ron says in the book, but in the movie Hermione is the one that says that. I'm like, I kind of like that Ron says it because he's actually from that world. She's not, but okay. So at that point I was like, okay, let's at that point I was like, okay, let's keep going, let's see. I'm not gonna say anything about Hermione yet. Maybe it's just two. Let's see what happens. Then the other change that I saw is that the ghost class, the history class with the ghost, got changed for Magano. I hope I'm saying it right, but that got changed, and I was like, oh, it was kind of interesting to see a ghost, like the first ghost that is a teacher. But I get it, maybe it was just difficult to film, so I get why they changed it. Oh, in the movies, Quidditch hates Wood, just hates him. He gets hit all the time in the movies. In the books, he doesn't get hit that much. Like, he's just doing his job, he's just chilling, he's playing. But in the movie, he just gets hit and hit and hit and hit. I don't know why he hates him so much. Oh, and then Hermione was the one that fixed the Badger in the movie, and at that point I was getting mad. I was like, hey, is she the hero for everything? Is she just like the one that fixes everything? And I know that's sort of like her character, like a know-it-all, but I was like, she doesn't have to do everything, you know? She doesn't have to do everything. In the book, she doesn't do everything. Yeah, that kind of annoys me a little bit. Even though before reading the books I really like Hermione's role, just the part that she's like a know-it-all was kind of annoying, but it's supposed to be her character. But now reading the books, it really makes me mad that she does so much and it gets changed from the books. I'm gonna keep reading, and my next one is meeting with Chris, and we're gonna be talking about the book, so I'm very excited about that. I kind of want to wake him up and just talk about it, but I'm gonna keep reading, and I'm very excited for the last couple of chapters and see if they change from the movie. Yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one. I kind of feel like Chris. See you guys in the next one. So I'm back because I realized I forgot to say my actual thoughts from chapter 6 to chapter 10. It's very early in the morning. You guys forgive me about that. So from chapter 6, I like that you meet Colin, and that's the first time you see him. And also, I can't believe how big of an ego Lockhart has. Like, he had an entire conversation with Harry where it was entirely by himself. Harry didn't even say anything. He was just talking and talking. I was like, he's so annoying. I don't like him. His ego feels even bigger in the books than in the movie. It's just like, oh my god, I get why Harry was trying to avoid him. Also, the test is hilarious in his class. It's like a best friend quiz. What's my favorite color? What do I like to do? What is the greatest achievement I have ever gotten, or something like that? And I was like, oh my god, he is so full of himself. It's like a best friend quiz. Look at my Mac. It's a giraffe. It's so cute. It's my favorite. It's always been my favorite mug for a very long time. It's for a special occasion, so you guys are special. From chapter 7, everyone talk about how in the movie Hermione gets, in the comments too, last year when we recorded the movie, everyone talked about how Hermione in the movies gets a lot of stuff, and like she gets the mud blood dialogue, which was very big because she talks about what Draco said to her and how she felt offended about being a mudblood, but that was actually Ron who said it in the book. And okay, so even though I said that Hermione was kind of getting a lot and it was making me annoyed because in the book she doesn't get whatever she's doing in the movie, that dialogue for me was okay for her to have it, because it would have been, at least to me, very disgusting if Ron was the one doing it, because he was so sick and he was like puking, and I was like, he shouldn't be talking. So I kind of get why Hermione did it. I mean, in the role, Hermione is so smart. She would have known what mudblood means. And it makes sense why she felt so offended, because she actually knew what it was. While in the books, she was offended, but she didn't really know what it was. So then Ron was the one that explained it. I don't know. A lot of people might disagree with me, but in the movie, kind of makes sense to me why they did it. So with that one, I'm not mad. I'm okay with that. But I really got annoyed about her fixing his glasses and her fixing the badger and just her saying a lot of things. Even the part where the Wizarding World shouldn't be listening to voices, that's not good. It's like, okay, Hermione shouldn't get that much in the movie. But that one was okay. That one, to me, it was like, okay, I get it. I like it. Let's do it. Let's give it to the movie. What I did right from my notes is that I was suspicious of Percy, and I didn't like his vibe. Even though you don't get to see a lot of him in this movie, you actually don't get to see him that much just in the house with the Weasleys. But I remember Chris telling me we don't like Percy, and I was like, he's not doing anything. Like last year, I'm saying, that Chris said we don't like Percy, and I was like, he's not really doing anything in the movie, so I don't know why. But in the books, you get to see a lot more of him, and I don't like him at all. From this book, I don't like him because he was so rude. He wasn't being a good brother to his sister. It says here that Madame Humphrey paper up potion left the drinker smoking at the ears for several hours afterwards. Ginny was bullied by Percy into drinking this. Like, why should your older brother bully you into something like this? And I'm not saying just like, oh, I don't like him just because of this, but just it doesn't seem like he really cares about his family, and he's just has this huge ego, and he just, I don't know, I feel like brothers and sisters and like family should protect each other, should look after each other, but he just doesn't care. He's always mad at his siblings, and he's always mad at everything. I really don't like him, and I really hated him for that, for bullying her into drinking something like that. Like, he shouldn't be like this. So I really didn't like him. Also, the castle in this chapter sounds so cozy. And in the movie you can see it too, but it's so cozy, like where you see the snow, and I know we talked about it a lot in our reaction, but I just want to be in the castle, because in the winter it's like the snow is gently falling and you're inside, and it just sounds great. I just had to mention that. I love the cozy feel of the castle every single season. But that's all I got so far from the movie and the book up to chapter 10. So next time you see me, for real, you're gonna see me with Chris, and we're gonna be talking about chapter 10 to the end and what we think of the book overall. So I will see you on the next one.
All right, guys, it's a little past midnight. I'm just going to dive into my second part of the review of the Chamber of Secrets. I'm going to be doing chapters 5 to 10. And excuse me if I look a little tired and just exhausted, but you know, I'm determined because of how much I love this book so far. Okay, so I found chapter 5, and I think this is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout this review. I don't want to talk for my wife or anything, but at least from my side, you know, there's going to be a few chapters where I don't really touch on, like chapter 5, where it's pretty much an exact replica in the movie. So there's really nothing for me to dive into. Again, you could probably find a little difference here and there, but in the grand scheme of things, there wasn't really any big differences to note. It was more or less kind of the same thing. So I went to chapter 6, and one thing I want to point out is Lockhart is absolutely hilarious as a character. You know, I think he's funnier in the books than he actually is in the movies, which says a lot because the actor who played him in the Chamber of Secrets was phenomenal. He was a great actor. But just in the book, you know, like for an example where, and the light came back on. See, look, we're getting more awake now. Things are livening up a bit. But as I was saying, when Lockhart is saying to Harry, where he's like, Harry, 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 and he just repeatedly says it. I think he says it like 3 times throughout this chapter. Where it's just Harry, Harry, Harry. You know, I can do an exact quote for you guys. Lockhart saying, Harry, said Lockhart, his large white teeth gleaming in the sunlight as he shook his head. Harry, Harry, Harry. And then he does it again. Don't know when I've been more shocked. Flying a car to Hogwarts. Well, of course, I knew at once why you'd done it. Stood out a mile. Harry, Harry, Harry. Like, just repeatedly, all the time. And it's like, dude, just get to the point. Just get to the point. So yeah, I found him absolutely hilarious, especially his pop quiz that he did for his class for the Defense Against the Dark Arts. That was something else just because of the questions that are listed. And again, I don't want to mess it up, so I'm just gonna quote it exactly. So number one, what is Gilderoy Lockhart's favorite color? Essential, right, to the dark arts. Essential. What is Gilderoy Lockhart's secret ambition? What, in your opinion, is Gilderoy Lockhart's greatest achievement to date? So it's really just boosting the guy's morale. It's really just, wow. I found that so hilarious. And the fact that Hermione answered all of it. Straight A's, of course. She's obviously in love with him, but, it's Hermione. She's got to, nail it to a T, no matter how stupid the questions are. So in Chapter 8, I think there was a pivotal moment that unfortunately was cut from the movie that I believe shouldn't have been cut. I thought that really would have added more to the movie if this was kept in. And I know, in the director's defense, in Chris's defense, the movie can't be 5 hours long. I understand that. So I'm not damn you, it's fine. I'm just saying, it's unfortunate that it wasn't kept in. And that was Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day Party. I honestly think it would have enriched the movie so much more if that was left in it. Because again, you're giving more depth to a character that so far in the movies, by the second movie, Nearly Headless Nick was something to just be oh, cool, a ghost. Awesome, let's keep moving. You know what I mean? You really knew nothing about him, at least from the movie standpoint. And this part, not scene, but this part of the book really shed more light on who Sir Nicholas is, and his story and how he became Nearly Headless Nick, and his ambition to join the Headless Hunt, and the irony of not being headless enough when Nearly Headless Nick said he was rejected because he still has half an inch of skin left on his neck attaching his head. That's not good enough. You need to be completely decapitated in order to join this group. So you can't help it but feel for the guy, you know what I mean? But reading that Harry, Ron, and Hermione went to Nearly Headless Nick's 500th Death Day party, that was such a treat. Just because the Bloody Baron and Moaning Myrtle were both in attendance. That's insane. Look, I'm going to refrain myself, all right? Because I watched back our first book review, and I went on a 10-minute rant about the Bloody Baron's story that I found out after we watched the movies because I was just so hooked by it. And now every single time the Bloody Baron's mentioned, I'm just oh my god, he's mentioned, this is crazy. I just get pumped about it. And plus Moaning Myrtle, a legend in the Harry Potter series, right? Absolute legend. But so this is her first appearance. It's not in the movies where they're already in the out of order girls' bathroom doing the polyjuice potion. It's here at the party. And this is kind of where you get introduced to who she actually is. One of the best parts about that was how Peeves was the life of the Death Day party. He was living it up. He was wearing a party orange hat. He was maybe a little bit too enthusiastic, running after Myrtle and throwing, what was it again? He was throwing moldy peanuts at Myrtle. So, and yelling Spotty. That was a little too much, my guy. That was a little too much, but overall, he was the livest one there, ironically. So to me, that was something that should have absolutely been kept in, because that would have, at least in the movies, it would have introduced the Bloody Baron. It would have given you kind of more of Moaning Myrtle, and not just in the bathroom. And, you know, introduces Peeves, and it gives nearly Headless Nick some backstory. So he's not just that guy in the first movie that, you know, took his head off and scared the kids. There was something more to it. One interesting thing I'm beginning to notice as I'm reading through is, and to be specific about it, a constant theme of lines Hermione says in the movies, but she doesn't say in the books. And again, I'm going to give an example here, where hearing voices no one else can hear isn't a good sign, even in the wizarding world. And we know Hermione says that to Harry on the moving staircase. However, in the book, it's Ron who says that to Harry. You know, so I'm finding more and more moments where I catch myself and I'm like, did Hermione say that in the movie though? And it's a completely different character. Like I said earlier with Arthur fixing Harry's glasses and how they gave that to Hermione in the movies. I'm not completely sure as to why they did that for the movies. Maybe they felt like Hermione didn't have enough lines. But if you guys could comment below, whoever read the books before the movies came out, did that kind of throw you off? Or not even the movies came out, but read the books before you watched the movies. I think that's a better way to say it. Did that throw you off and kind of irritate you that Hermione out of nowhere is getting all these lines that belong to other characters? Or was it kind of just something you're like, I mean, it's not like a pivotal line. It's okay, give it to her. I'm really curious about that, to be honest. There was actually a moment in chapter 9 where I thought, damn, this is actually a really good point and would kind of solve people's feelings of randomness, you know what I mean? Like, kind of, you had to read the books in order to fully follow along with the movie. And what I'm talking about specifically, you know, Hermione raised a good point. The book with the ingredients and instructions on how to create a polyjuice potion would be in the restricted section of the library. Otherwise, every student would be attempting to make and or use it. And I wrote that down because to me that makes so much more sense, because it's such a dangerous thing to use, a polyjuice potion, right? You can make yourself into anybody for an hour. There's so much power that comes with that, right? And you don't want a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old to wield that kind of power, right? Because they can make so many dangerous mistakes. So it makes sense that it would be in the restricted section. However, in the movie, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you know, I've been watching them for a long time, but I do it for like once a year, and my wife and I watched these movies with you guys now a year ago. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they ever touched on that in the movie. They kind of, like, Hermione just kind of had the book that had the information in it. And to me, that always like threw me off, because I'm like, that's just open access information for any student to use? Really? Like, and just no student had the interest to follow through and kind of study this and make one themselves. So that kind of always threw me off, and I was kind of confused by that in the movie. So the book really clears that up, and in a logical way. That makes sense. And also, at the end of chapter 9, Ron says, oh, come on, no teacher's gonna fall for that. They'd have to be really thick. Then chapter 10 starts. Since the disastrous episode of the Pixies, Professor Lockhart, the transition like is seamless. Of course, the thick teacher that presents itself is Lockhart. I mean, there's no other. It makes perfect sense. And the funniest part of it all is they actually get Lockhart to sign off on it. Like on the permission slip, to Hermione in order to get the book that has the polyjuice potion ingredients and instructions. Oh my god, man, he is so thick. Ron's right. Like, he's just nothing there. It's just like, you say how much you love me, you can have anything you want. So again, I found another example of Ron's lines being taken away from him and given to Harry or Hermione. And I wrote down the example here. A month, said Ron, Malfoy could have attacked half of the Muggle boards in the school by then. Harry said this in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why they did Ron like that. They really kind of degraded his character to the point where, like I said earlier, he's just the comedic relief. He's just the sidekick. Doesn't really have much to contribute except for a couple of laughs. And then that's pretty much it. You know, there's so much depth to him in this book where I keep saying this, and I'm sure I'm going to keep saying it throughout the entire series. I like Ron in the books. I don't like Ron in the movies. I'm sorry, guys, I don't. What's presented in the movies is just an annoying sidekick that really offers nothing except hatred towards Hermione until later on where they start liking each other. I'm not a fan of him in the movies, but in the books, he's Harry's right-hand guy. Like, without Ron, Harry wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that he does. Like, they're such a great, well, I mean, brother. They're both brothers at this point, you know what I mean? So I think they really did Ron a huge disservice in the movies. It's just something I'm like noticing more and more as I read. I'm super excited to keep on reading, and the very next time that we do this, it's going to be me and Daniela, and we're going to be doing our joint review of the rest of the book right till the very end. So I'm really pumped about that. I want to keep reading. Like I said in the last part of my review, when we always start reading back up Harry Potter, I always get addicted again. And I just want to keep reading. I can't stop until I have to stop because of my boys. But man, I'm tired. But anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me, and we'll catch you on the next one. What's going on, guys? We finally reached the part of the book review where we're going to be together now and sharing our thoughts, opinions, and notes we've taken for the rest of chapters 11 to the end of the book. And I'll let you start, sweetheart.
Me? No, you start.
Okay, sure, why not? So right away in chapter 11, what always struck me as odd was when Lockhart started up the dueling club, because we know by watching the movies now that he took credit for everything that other wizards and witches have done. Mm-hmm. So he was self-aware that he could not do any of this.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Why would he do that?
Right?
It's kind of like he's outing himself.
Exactly. I think it's probably the part of him that's like that narcissistic, where he starts to believe his own lies, and he's like, I actually am amazing, even though he hasn't done anything. So I found just the background information that's provided in the book. I was like, yeah, it really is odd that he started this and he has no clue what he's talking about. And Snape's ready to kill him, which in the movie, Snape is pretty like monotone about everything. He could care less. Yeah, sure, he's a little annoyed, but in the book, he's like snarling and ready to kill him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. I also love how it's not really that present in this book versus the first book, but Harry doing another sarcastic remark to Lockhart. And it was on page 147, if you don't mind, sweetheart. Thank you. So during the dueling class, Lockhart cuffed Harry merrily on the shoulder and said, "Just do what I did, Harry." And Harry said, "What, drop my wand?" Like, that's such a classic Harry thing to say, like the book version at least. And I feel like we got so much of it the first book, that sarcastic version of Harry. Mm-hmm. But in the second book, I think that's the only sarcastic remark he really makes.
Yeah, in the second book, he's not as sassy.
Exactly, yeah. So it was nice to get that dose of Harry again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how Lockhart just completely dismissed it. He wasn't even listening to Harry. Another one for the dueling club. A lot happened in that chapter, to be honest with you. The Slytherin girl putting Hermione in a headlock.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, okay, I guess it's fists now. Like, everyone's dueling and they just pan around and Hermione's just in a headlock. Like, that sucks. I felt so bad for her. Oh my god. One of the things I loved in this chapter was when Harry was speaking Parseltongue to the snake to stop it from attacking, I believe his name's Justin. In the book, it's telling you that Harry said it in English.
Yeah, he thought he said it in English.
Exactly, and it's not like the movie where, okay, Harry thought that, but it came out Parseltongue. It came out in English because he's the one thinking it, right? And I thought that was so clever because if you're reading it for the first time, you've never seen the movies, you're like, with Harry, you're like, what's the issue? Like, he just told Justin, like, he told the snake not to attack Justin. What's the big whoop? And then you find out later on that everybody else heard something different.
Yeah, that's very interesting and very different from the movies because with the movie, you're just like, what is happening? Why is he talking like that? So
Exactly.
you are with everyone else. But in the book, you're with Harry.
Exactly. So I thought that was a really cool perspective to have as the reader. Also, the last thing that I had jotted down for chapter 11 was Ernie from Hufflepuff. You know, he made some really good points.
He did.
If you don't know anything about Harry, like you're not friends with him, you're not even part of Gryffindor, you would believe Ernie. Like, I would believe Ernie. Like, he made some great points. So I just got the book out to give some of Ernie's points where you're like, huh, okay. The dude's making sense. There was some heavy murmuring at this, and Ernie went on. Remember what was written on the wall? Enemies of the air, beware. Potter had some sort of run-in with Filch. Next thing we know, Filch's cats attacked. That first year, Creevy was annoying Potter at the Quidditch match, taking pictures of him while he was lying in the mud. Next thing we know, Creevy's been attacked. So it's just like, you know, he's backing his thought process up with a lot of good points.
Yeah.
So I could see absolutely if someone's bringing up this argument, you would believe them if you don't know Harry.
You're right.
Yeah, so sorry.
It was really good point.
Yeah.
For chapter 10, I don't have a lot written down because that's when I was like, okay, now I need to watch the movie.
Oh, okay,
You remember
okay.
that? I said, okay, now I need to watch a movie because I feel like they're blending in. But I do remember that Ernie part
Our baby monitor.
I do remember that Ernie part that I was like, okay, that's not in the movie for sure. So I had to watch it.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, like I can't believe that some characters are not included in the movie at all. Like Peeves is not included.
Yes.
And now Ernie comes on more later on and he's not included in the movie at all. So
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You're right. The only Hufflepuff everybody really knows, and I mean like everybody knows, is Cedric from the Goblet of Fire. But other than that, you don't really, unless you're a hardcore Harry Potter fan, you don't know anybody.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, for me, the crazy thing about chapter 12 is that, I don't know if you remember this, but Malfoy gave him, it was Ron and Harry, but they were transformed.
Oh yeah, Crabbe and Goyle.
Yeah. He gave them the newspaper.
Yes, you're right, yeah.
That's huge, and that wasn't in the movie.
Yeah.
That it says that he's clearly unfit to draw up or lost and ridiculous protection should be. Mr. Weasley wasn't available for wait, but here it is. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. So here's the part. He was called today for Mr. Weasley's resignation. So he was fired.
No, well, he was calling for it. So, like, his job was certainly at risk, but Malfoy wasn't Arthur Weasley's boss. So he wasn't. He was just saying, you should resign.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy because it was like, he lost his job. He must be feeling horrible, but he's still feeling horrible. If his job
absolutely.
is at risk.
Yeah.
So I thought that was crazy that they had that in the newspaper and they didn't know. And imagine being turned into someone else and you're seeing this about your dad. You're like,
well, and it's your fault.
mm-hmm.
That's the worst part.
Yeah, yeah, and that he was unfit to draw up laws and ridiculous Muggle protection acts. And then Mr. Weasley wasn't available for comment, although his wife told the reporters to clear off, or she set the family goal on them.
Absolutely, yeah.
She
Sounds
would
like
say
Molly.
so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And also about that, I also wrote my own note that, you know, when Draco offers hypothetically to help the heir of Slytherin, if he knew who it was, it just makes your heart break for him because we know now, seeing the movies, how desperate Draco was for his father's approval and how he was just a sponge to everything his father was, and his father was a very wicked man. He was not a good person. So Draco being so hell-bent on helping the heir of Slytherin, so hell-bent on Hermione dying, at least he's vocal about Hermione dying and wanting it to happen. You can see now, you know, in hindsight, that he was just a boy trying to get his father's approval. And I think the picture that Jim K illustrated is perfect for this. If you guys can see it there, I think it sums it up perfectly. He was so lost.
You're right.
Yeah, to say something so vile like that. You know, kids don't think that way. They genuinely don't think that way. So, you know, it was something he grabbed on from his dad.
Yeah, and I think he was also jealous. I don't know if that's the right word, but to see Harry, Hermione, and Ron being so close and happy and loved by their family, except for Harry, it must be very hard, especially when he's internal struggle of pure blood muggles and seeing how happy they can be, how they can be friends and good people, but he has this thing that his dad told him, no, they have to be pure blood.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
So one last thing about chapter 12 I wrote down was I always found it kind of odd in the movie where Draco says he hopes Hermione dies like he does in the book. However, in the movie, Ron explodes and he gets up to fight Draco. Well, as Crabbe, of course. And, you know, at this point, in the movies at least, not the books, Ron and Hermione barely have a friendship. Like, Harry's really the glue between them. So I don't know where all that emotion came from, where Harry was able to keep himself calm because he knew Draco's just a jerk, it's whatever. But Ron explodes with this anger and he tries to fight him and blow his cover over somebody that's not even really your friend. So I think the movie didn't do a great job of that. That was so random to me. In the book, it was far better, where Ron was having the appropriate reaction, where he was clenching his fists and getting upset. But then Harry looked at him and Ron checked himself. He was like, okay, you're right, we're on a mission here. That was the more appropriate reaction for the type of friendship they had at the time.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, it was less random. Like, Draco's still a jerk, and it's still horrible to hear someone say these things about someone you're acquainted with. In my opinion, Ron and Hermione are just acquaintances right now, not necessarily friends. So that's a more appropriate reaction. So I think the book did a far better job of kind of towing that line than the movie did, where it's just like, oh, Ron's really defensive of Hermione now for no reason. And at the end of the movie, Hermione shakes Ron's hand but hugs Harry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's barely a friendship there. And then for some reason he's super protective of her. So I think, again, the book did a far better job of showing their growing friendship versus the movie.
Right. That's a really good point that you brought up. I remember seeing that in the movie and the book, and I didn't really think anything of it, but you are bringing up how they're developing their friendship, and you can see how it leads up to what we know it leads up to. So that's crazy. That's crazy that you got that. To me, yeah, I've seen it now twice that he tried to protect Hermione with the when Draco said mudblood.
Right.
He tried to protect her, and now this. So it kind of is growing on him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even the first part, where he tries to do something to Draco and it fires back on him and he's puking up slugs. Like, even that, like, that made sense because, hey, don't talk about her like that. Like, here you go. But to, like, full out fist fight and blow your cover of the entire mission,
Right.
that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
That was a little random.
So, chapter 13, The Very Secret Diary. Okay, so for this chapter, I'm really happy that they didn't have that Valentine thing in the movie. It sounds so cringy. So cringy that they had that it's Lockhart's way of to, like, bring up the spirits and... Is that how you say it?
Yeah, bring up spirits, for sure.
Bring up spirits and... that he thought of this Valentine's thing, which is kind of cool to see, like, in the books, because that actually happens in school.
Exactly.
I don't know if it happens in other schools, but in my school, at least, Valentine's, you will buy one rose and, like, they will have one person that brings it to other people. So you're like, oh my god, who is my Valentine? Who gave me this? So I love seeing that in the book because it is a cringy, like, you want it, but you also don't want it, but you want to seem like someone likes you, but you also, it's, like, weird.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm kind of glad it was in the movie just because it's, like, cringy, but also I'm glad it was in the books because they were able to actually develop it and you're like, okay, I can get through it, and you feel the same emotions as Harry.
Exactly.
Where in the movie it might have been something like, I don't know why they have this in here, but yeah, I just like that you could see that he was really not liking it, and then he got the Valentine's that was singing, he was so embarrassed, and that's exactly how you should feel when you get it. Except a little bit like, okay, I got one.
Exactly, and I completely agree with you. I think that if they kept that in the movie, it just would have been an awkward part. Like, it wouldn't have been a smooth transition into the next part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But Ginny?
Yeah.
Ginny. Okay, good. I said it right. Ginny shows a lot of interest in Harry in this book.
Yes.
Which is not in the movies, except for the part where she goes downstairs and she's like, Harry, and then she goes up the stairs again.
It's a very good catch. Yeah.
Here you can see it a lot. Like, she's, like, obsessed with him. And now I can see why they kind of go into then dating. Like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. But in the movie, you're like, why?
Exactly.
What's happening? Like, this is crazy. There's so many things about Ginny, and so many things about, like, a lot of the characters are gone from the movie. It's basically just Ron, Hermione, and Harry for the first couple of movies, because there's parts where George and Fred in the Quidditch match, they were trying to protect Harry. You don't see that in the movie. There's a lot of Fred and George where they're doing pranks and talking to Harry. You don't see that in the movie. Ginny, a lot of her being obsessed with Harry. And the part, well, we'll get to that later. But even Percy, you see a lot more Percy in the books than you did in the movies.
Yeah.
So
in my own individual part, I made note of that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you start to hate him even more. I remember when we started watching the movies, you told me we hate him, and I was like, he's barely in the movie. You're like, why? And seeing him now, I talked about it in my personal, in my individual review, that I start to hate him even more because he was kind of like bullying Ginny and like bullying all his siblings, and they should be like loving each other. But that's my rant with him.
No, I completely agree with you about the whole Ginny thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is very true that when we reacted to the Half-Blood Prince, when Ginny and Harry kind of started flirting and everything, you were like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where the hell did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in the comments were like, your reaction's right, like, it is random from a movie standpoint, but in the books they build it up.
Mm-hmm.
It makes way more sense, and we're starting to see that.
Yeah. I also said that I really like how the book is written in a way that is slow paced, while in the movie it's sort of like fast paced. But we can get into that later when we do our final reviews.
Absolutely.
And another thing I have about the chapter is that you learn a little bit more about Tom, which doesn't come until way later on in the movies.
Oh God, if at all.
Yeah, there's like I think one scene where he sees Dumbledore.
Mm-hmm. Like he was a kid in the orphanage, right?
Yeah, that's a part.
You can just go back to Brian. It's okay.
I'm practicing. I mean, 8 movies. How many movies? 6, 7,
Yeah,
8 movies. 2 books. I have to start saying it right. I've seen it written helps me a lot because when you see it, when they're saying it in the movie, you're kind of like,
yeah.
But when you see it written, you're like, hey, damn book. I know I practice. I looked at myself in the mirror and I practiced. Yeah, so that's crazy that in the books you can know about him more so early, while in the movies you have to wait a long time to know what his story is. And I remember wondering, okay, like, what's up with him? Why does he have a nose? And like, what's up with him? So yeah,
right.
I really like that.
I love that too.
And now for chapter 14, I said in my notes that I love how welcoming Hagrid is. He's always offering Tom. He's always offering Ron.
Jesus.
For Ron.
Cup of tea, Tom.
Ron and Harry and Hermione like something from his house, and he makes it so welcoming and cozy that I kind of feel like I want to go visit him. He always has like tea and something to go along with it.
And a creature. I also think that what's really cool that's shown in the book but not the movies is the evolution of the mandrakes.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's so funny. It's like they're just going through like their Degrassi phase where she's like, yeah, you know, once they start partying and getting reckless and you start bumping tunes and stuff, we know they're kind of getting closer to where they need to be for us to unpetrify people. And I'm like, really, they're going through the whole evolution of life within a span of like months.
I love that they explained that they were kids and they were screaming and crying, and then they're partying, and it was like and you can see an illustration too, and they're like playing instruments and
exactly, and trying to go into each other's pots.
That's when they're older.
Yeah. And by the way, the Degrassi thing, if you're American and you don't get it, that's a Canadian reference. One thing I really liked was how Harry, seeing that, you know, Tom and himself have so much similarities, that's what makes Harry be sympathetic towards Tom and believe everything that he's telling him in the diary.
Right, good.
Yeah, because you know, Tom cleverly put in that he was an orphan without parents. You know, all this stuff where Harry's like, I don't have parents. Like, I can relate to this guy. And that makes him, everything Tom's saying, more believable to Harry.
And trust him.
And trust him, exactly. So when he divulged that Hagrid was the one who opened the Chamber of Secrets, he wasn't like, that's ridiculous. He was like, oh my God, like this Tom guy, I can relate to him so much, and he's telling me something. It has to be Hagrid.
Yeah, and now that you say, the part that reminds me of that is that he said, I now relate to how Tom feels when he has to go back to school, back home, if he doesn't find out who the one that opened the chamber is.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why he was so determined, and Harry's like, oh yeah, I can relate to that because I feel the same way.
So Ron jumping up to hurt Malfoy makes way more sense now in chapter 15 because Hermione's been petrified and could possibly die. Mm-hmm. So Ron taking Malfoy's insults more personally, that makes more sense now. Where he's like, okay, that's it. Like, we're throwing fists now. This is it. Mm-hmm. That, like, I get it now. Back then, where I literally just talked about it, that was so random and made no sense to their relationship. But now it does because Hermione's life is on the line.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So that was something I wanted to make note. I didn't want to say the whole thing was ridiculous. It's just the timing. Mm-hmm. Especially in the movie where it was only once and they picked that time.
Right.
And that didn't make sense to me.
In chapter 15, you find out that Hagrid was expelled from Hogwarts because he was innocent, but people thought he was the one that opened the chamber.
Yes.
I feel like the books explain that way better than the movie, because I remember being a little confused while we were watching it. It was like, what does Hagrid have to do with this? How could he even be the Slytherin heir? And how does he go from that to being the gamekeeper? The book explains that. Even in the last chapter, it explains it way better than in the movie. I kind of feel like they just toss it in.
No, I agree with you completely. I wrote the same point, actually. I have watched these movies 15,000 times over the course of over a decade. And I never understood that part. No matter how many times I watched it, I was always left confused. Because you're right, in the movie, they don't really clarify that, yes, Hagrid was expelled. And they bring that up even in the first book. So you know that's something factual. But in the second movie, they don't clarify that, yes, Hagrid was expelled. However, he was framed. They do touch on the fact that Hagrid was framed, absolutely. But then you believe everything Tom said was a lie. So then Hagrid wasn't expelled. Like, yeah, it's just so confusing, that part, if you've only watched the movies. So you're right, absolutely. I love how the book dives deeper into it and they clarify everything.
Yeah. Okay, so this is big. In chapter 16, I was like, okay, I was wondering this. And then I read, like, I didn't read chapter 16 and chapter 17 and 18 until later on, like a couple of days ago. But when I was reading chapter 16, I wrote this, and now knowing what I know from finishing the book, it's very interesting. Chapter 16, I said...
Chapter 16, I said... What did I say?
I never thought about that, but Percy, in chapter 16, he sends a letter to his parents when they find out that Jeannie has been taken to the chamber, and she's... They think she has been killed.
Right.
So I was wondering, I was like, they never let Mr. and Mrs. Weasley know about this. It was like, but then I said, in the books, Percy sent the letter to his parents to let them know. I wonder if they actually told them, because, I mean, Jeannie was sent away again to Hogwarts the next book, the next movie, the next year. So,
yeah.
And to know it was Lucius, I said Lucius. Lucius, who gave her the diary. So in chapter 16, I was wondering when Percy sent the letter, I was like, you know what? I was wondering that in the movie. I wonder if they actually let them know that you actually never see anything about them. So It's like, I mean, they have to. Maybe they don't know because they sent her away the next year. Like, you as a parent would be like, well, something happened to my kid. And maybe, like, I don't know. I was just wondering that. I was like, that's crazy. So I'm glad Percy sent the letter. As I read on the next couple of chapters, it gets more interesting.
Yeah.
But that's what I had from this chapter. And then chapter 17 is when he actually finds the snake and he talks to Tom.
Just to clarify, it was that single point for chapter 16 because the rest of the chapter was very, very, very similar to the movie.
Yeah.
So there was nothing really to write down for that. I just wanted to clarify so people don't think that we just skipped chapter 16. Mm-hmm. That's why. So one thing I couldn't even comprehend, like it blew my mind in the movie where Tom wrote out his name and then switched it to I am Lord Voldemort. I can't imagine, and guys, if this was you, please comment below. I can't imagine how insane it must have been to read that for the first time. Like, again, like we said it for our movie reaction, but the creativity of J.K. Rowling to decipher and take apart all the words and all the letters and rearrange them so that fits.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What? Like, that's just insane. So reading that for the first time, guys, you have to comment below. What was that like? Because it was still crazy to me, but I've seen the movie a million times. So reading it for the first time would be mind-numbing.
I think I would have been like, okay, that letter goes there, that letter goes there.
Right.
I'm like, Did
6
she?
years later. Absolutely. So I, sorry. So I wrote down another point where, again, it's kind of a glimpse into Voldemort, Tom, as a person. From what I wrote, from what I read, sorry, not what I wrote, from what I read, it seems like Voldemort's purest attitude for pure blood, it stems from hating his Muggle father,
Yeah.
which is very deep. That is so deep because he clarifies by saying his Muggle father abandoned him before he was even born. So that could be the starting point of him hating all Muggles.
Mm-hmm.
Because you abandoned my mother and I.
Because she was a witch.
Because she was a witch. But also, you're trash because you abandoned us. So all Muggles must be trash. I hate all Muggles. You know, you see the follow through, the thought pattern with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really telling and so accurate to how people think.
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just astounding when I read that.
It's crazy. Like I said, you get to know more about him,
Yeah.
and actually sometimes feel sorry for him. While in the movies, it was just like,
Exactly.
until then later on you see that scene, but it didn't hit as deep as you read it in the books.
Absolutely. Like, he was definitely born a psychopath, but the situation of his upbringing didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They explain it so much better in the books too, where he's like, Lord Voldemort is my past, my present, my future. Because I remember watching the movie again, and you sort of like go along with it, and like the movie's so good that you just don't question it.
Yeah.
But I remember being like, past, present, and future. But how is he a memory? How does it work? And then, but even in the books, he says something like, we meet. Here it is. To business, Harry, said Riddle, still smiling broadly. Twice in your past and in my future we have met.
Exactly.
And I was like, it is twice in his past, but in Voldemort's future because he's a memory. And I was like,
yeah, exactly.
That makes so much sense. I was like, in the memory, so does he remember? Does he know? And then later on, I'm kind of skipping because it's like pretty much I like that they have more of a conversation.
Yeah.
And I also love the part where
we really love the book, guys.
He talks way more about Jeannie and their relationship, because I was like,
yes.
Jeannie's not stupid. Like, why did she start talking to her diary? Like, maybe she couldn't find one that she liked and she just started using this one. But he talks more about how he played into Jeannie and everything. Yeah. Like he said, I heard her darkest secrets, and she was telling me about how she likes Harry and how he wouldn't like her and all these things. And I started like gaining her trust. And I was like, oh.
How he manipulated her.
Yeah, he manipulated her, and how he was like trying to get into her thoughts, and how she was saying like, I don't know how I did this. I don't know what I was doing during Halloween. Did I do this? I have blood on my robes.
And choking roosters.
Yeah. And how it just makes so much more sense. I feel like they kind of wrapped up that in the movie.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, she just started writing on it, and then she started thinking this thing, so she kind of like got possessed or something.
Yeah.
But no, it's so much deeper than that. And I like knowing what she was thinking as an 11-year-old. Like my it was real things as an 11-year-old. Like, my brother started teasing me, and I was like, I feel bad. She's the only girl.
Yeah.
And there are so many boys. And then how she has secondhand books and clothes for school. And I was like, it is what you would be thinking as an 11-year-old.
Absolutely. He
was very manipulating. And, I really like to see that part. And then what else do you have to say? I also like that they say, Ron says, I think Myrtle's got fun of you. You've got competition, Jeannie. Again, hinting that, Harry knows that Jeannie likes him.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Myrtle.
I thoroughly enjoyed in chapter 18 how Dumbledore was revealing what really happened with Voldemort after the Chamber of Secrets. I really enjoyed him explaining, which they don't at all in the movies, how once he graduated from Hogwarts, or sorry, he left Hogwarts, that he disappeared. Like he just went off and no one knew what happened to him. And he did so many transformations, like magic transformations, that when he was finally visible to people again, he didn't look like himself at all. He wasn't the handsome, charming boy anymore.
Head boy.
He wasn't that anymore. He lost all of his charm, all of his charisma, his good looks were all gone. I think, again, that's a vital detail into the character of Voldemort that we were robbed of.
I wonder still, why did he lose his nose?
No, that's because when he came back, that was the potion that brought him back.
Right.
Yeah. That wasn't how he originally looked like. Yeah.
He was very handsome.
Absolutely. And that was part of his charisma.
Yeah. I mean, he was head boy. And then when he talked about like how it was his war against Hagrid, it's true. He was like perfect marks. Everyone liked him. Head boy against Harry, who was always in trouble and with monsters.
Exactly. So I think the biggest reveal of this book.
I have to say it. Wait, no, go ahead.
Wait.
Is it the same?
I don't know. Okay, you go, sweetheart. You go.
Okay. Well, to me, the biggest thing that I was like, oh my god, is that they bring Mr. and Mrs. Weasley into this, and they never said that, like in the movie, you never see them again.
Okay, that wasn't mine, so that's good.
Okay, that's good. But I was like, finally, my question has been answered. They knew they went to the school as a normal reaction you would have, and how they were so worried about her. And then I like that Voldemort.
You can just call him Tom.
I know. I was gonna say Dumbledore.
I know the reactions were like a year ago, but you got to remember this stuff, baby.
No, I like that. That she was so worried because, like, you don't even see her reaction after. Like, so she came back and then she's good. She went to McDonald's. Like, what happened?
Right. There would absolutely be a McDonald's in the Wizarding world.
They should.
They would find a way.
No, she's like really sad and she's gonna think she's expelled. And I was like, I really like. I hate that they kind of cut that.
Yeah.
And we didn't see it because I was wondering, okay, so did they know? Did their parents know? How was she feeling? What happened to her?
Yeah.
Did she just went back home?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I think that Ginny and Ron so far have been robbed the most of their character development. In the movies, sorry, not in the books. So it was definitely redeemed in the books.
You go ahead.
So my big reveal to me was, and it possibly could be the biggest reveal in the whole franchise, Percy had a girlfriend. It was the Ravenclaw prefect. And that's why he was trapped in his room all summer writing letters. It was to her.
Yeah.
He was crushing hard, my guy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't excuse it. I just want to clarify. Sorry, baby. But I just want to clarify that it doesn't excuse how he treats his family.
Yeah.
He still treats his family like garbage, that they're less than, and he's highly above. And if he has to be a Weasley, like I said before, if he has to be a Weasley, then he is obviously the best Weasley that ever existed.
Yeah.
It just explains why he was trapped in his room all summer.
Yeah.
And why he was worried when she was petrified.
Yeah, which didn't happen in the movie.
Oh, they, like you said, they showed Percy at the beginning of the movie, and that was pretty much it.
No, but they didn't even show that she was petrified. It was just Hermione.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess that's why they cut us, because they couldn't explain that. Or I guess they could, but it would just be like, eh.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would have been invested in that for the movie, but...
Yeah. I also like that they talk about what happened to Lockhart, which they he lost his memory and then, he went with the Phoenix. But that's about it.
Yeah.
So here they say that he had to, what was it? I kind of like that Dumbledore is like, okay, so why haven't you said anything, like, about your... He said, why are you being so modest?
Right, yeah.
And he was like, oh, he lost his memory, so, I was a professor. He tried to do a memory, so Ron explaining, and then they say that he goes away he has to recover his memory, but he goes back to the hospital wing and all of that. And explaining to everyone else too that he's not the professor anymore. So I really like that. I feel like this chapter is really closing. It has closure for everything.
Exactly.
It really tells me all the answers that I had before.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect word, closure.
Closure.
Because you don't really get it in the movie at the end.
Yeah, then they cut to the part where he's talking about being a Gryffindor, and yeah, that part is in the movie. It also gives me more closure in the book that he should be a Gryffindor, because in the movie I was like, well, you told the Pat, so that's, I can still have like, you should have been Slytherin.
Right.
But here it kind of explains it better. I don't know how to explain that part, why I got more closure feeling that he should be in Gryffindor from the book, even though it's kind of similar to the movie.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think that it was a very bold choice for J.K. Rowling to end the entire book on such a dark joke. That was a dark joke, and I'll just read it quickly. Sorry, sweetheart. Just so I don't mess it up. Your aunt and uncle will be proud, though, won't they? Said Hermione, as they got off the train and joined the crowd, thronging towards the enchanted barrier. When they hear what you did this year? Proud, said Harry. Are you mad? All those times I could have died, and I didn't manage it? They'll be furious. Damn, man, that is dark. Like, they'll be so mad I didn't die.
yeah, and there's this part, now that you say that, also that they sent him a pen, something, and he said, can you find out if you can stay for the holidays or summer
holidays.
The summer holidays too. And I was like, are you serious? You're like, he's in school, just leave him alone.
Yeah. They're just terrible people.
Horrible. You hate them even more, and I said that too. You hate them even more in the books than you do. Like, I hated them, but even more here.
No, absolutely. And it's just Harry's self-awareness shown at the end of the book is, wow, like to know that, okay, the best time of my year just passed, and now I have to go back to this.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was one hell of a way to end the book. So we're going to do what we did the last book review, and we're going to choose whether we like the book or the movie better. So which one did you prefer for Chamber of Secrets?
Okay, so to be fully honest, up to like chapter 16, I was choosing the movie, and I've been going, after watching the movie and being on chapter 16, I was thinking in my head, okay, I'm gonna choose the movie because I actually just, like, you can see everything you see in the book, so I like that you can, like, not what you just imagine, you can see it. I really enjoy the movie. But now that I've had chapter 17 and 18, and I got all the answers I needed,
right,
I choose book.
Okay.
Fully, 100%. I got the closure I needed to find and close the book.
Exactly. Well, literally. But I completely agree with you. In the beginning, I thought the exact same thing. I thought that, you know, they're giving me pretty much the exact same thing. Like when I read the first couple of chapters, they're giving me the same thing. So at least with the movie, I get to see it come to life. Mm-hmm. But there was so much, when I kept reading on, there was so much left out of the movie that made more sense, that explained things, clarified things, and gave more background detail, like Filch being a squib.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that extra detail, and that's probably why, and Ron said this, that's probably why he hates students, because they have magic.
Yeah, that's true. You get little hints of our characters and how he was trying to learn magic. He had that,
Exactly, and he had that infomercial, quickie spell or whatever it was called. So I definitely choose the book over the movie as well. And what was your last one? Did you choose? You chose the movie last time.
I chose the movie last time, I think.
You're 1 for 1, and I'm 2-0 for the book. So we'll see what happens with the next one. But guys, thank you so much for joining us with this book review. As you could tell throughout a couple of the videos, it was a little bit difficult, you know, filming and everything with our 2 kids and everything that goes along with that. But to be honest with you guys, and I genuinely mean this, it was worth it. Always coming back into the Harry Potter world, whether that's a movie, whether that's a book, it's always so much joy, and it's always so much, laughter, mind-blowing information that just completely captivates you for the rest of the day. It was absolutely worth it, and thank you guys so much for joining us. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, just that I said it too. You really feel like you're in the school with the books and how cozy the castle feels. And I said it also in my individual book review that it's sort of like the season that you want to get into the books and read and watch movies again. So I think it's a perfect time.
I agree. We started it. I completely agree. Well, guys, until Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban book review, we hope you enjoy, and we'll catch you on the next one.